So, what is number 5 on my list of the absolute worst ways to try to make a living doing homesteading or permaculture? Well, it's going to be shocking for a lot of people because it's usually the number one thing that people think of when they think of living off the land or doing homesteading. But as it turns out, a lot of people who are insiders, who are knowledgeable, have been telling people to avoid this for decades, including permaculture founder Bill Mollison, who said the last thing any of us should be doing is any kind of farming. And in particular, I want to talk about vegetable farming. Vegetable farming is the number 5 worst way to try to make a living doing permaculture or homesteading. You see, and it is shocking because there's actually this whole industry of people promoting that you can get rich quick doing vegetable farming and that you can live your homesteading and back to the land dreams and all that by doing homesteading, and they say, or by doing vegetable farming. And they talk about what a great, fantastic, fun life it is and how you get to relax and play with vegetables and stuff like that. Well, if it's so great and it makes so much money, why aren't they doing it? I mean, that's what I wonder. If it's so great, why are they instead trying to sell classes about how to do it instead of actually doing the thing if it's such a great lifestyle and they love it so much? This is one of the shocking things about it. Some of the most famous people selling these profitable farming, get-rich-quick farming vegetables classes, a couple of them have literally only farmed ever for like 2 years. One of the most famous guys getting rich doing this, selling the classes, only farmed for 2 years, barely made a profit, and then turned around and launched this set of classes selling that you can get rich doing vegetable farming. His wife took over managing the business, but she doesn't work farming either. It's actually a bunch of free unpaid interns who are working there because they want to learn how to get rich farming. You know, so take all of those with a grain of salt, just like I hope you take everything that I say and subject it to scrutiny too. Now, so let's look at how bad the economics of farming actually are. To start with, think of, something that that everybody thinks is a risky profession, like art. It's practically, everybody knows you can't make a living doing art. And yet, there are about 2.5 million people making their livelihoods doing art. And as an average, they make about $50,000 to $60,000 a year. That's pretty good. And on the high end, I personally know multiple artists who make over $100,000 or hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just making and selling art by themselves, doing that work themselves. Now, meanwhile, in 40-something years, I've never met anybody who has really thrived and made a great livelihood doing vegetable farming. And how many people are even employed by that industry? It's only about 120,000 people in the whole country who are employed by that industry, most of them low-paid minimum wage workers who are seasonal. And good research shows that a realistic income expectation for people doing the vegetable farming, the actual farmers, is maybe about $3 an hour because they work such long, hard hours to get the money. Even looking at some of these paragons who are selling the get-rich-quick classes, if you just look at their own numbers, you can go over to growingfree.money, where I break down some of the numbers that these famous, super successful farmers have published for themselves. They're really only making about $10,000 to $15,000 a year for themselves, and they claim that they're working long hours all year round. In the winter, they switch to their marketing work. That's even if they did, any real farming at all. And on the really high end, there are few who appear to be claiming to make almost $20,000 a year, but that doesn't cover crop loss. That's one isolated year. It doesn't cover bad years and crop loss years and all that. Which brings us to the second big reason why the whole farming economy is totally broken. The risk-reward ratio is completely off. Again, look at art. You know, if you go into it, you work hard at it, you're likely to be able to make something of a decent low middle class living, but you're spending your time doing art. And if you get lucky, maybe you'll be like a few of my friends and make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And on the top end, there are artists who can sell a single painting for $100,000 or more. And so it makes a lot of sense for people to risk trying to become an artist because the rewards are so great. Now, when it comes to farming, the whole thing with risk and reward is that the higher the risks, the higher potential rewards should be. And farming, on the other hand, is one of the highest risk industries of all. It has the highest rate of failure and bankruptcy of any business tracked by our government, and it has a high rate of injuries and risks and exhaustion and getting sick and all of these other things because it's such hard physical labor. And yet, on the high end of things, for people actually doing the work of farming, not people selling get-rich-quick schemes, but people actually farming, it appears that the high end of things is maybe like $15 an hour or so. So the risk-reward economics of farming is completely broken. And there's another way that farming has always been used to show another basic economic principle. And that is the idea of diminishing returns. Because if you do a vegetable garden, it can be a really high value activity. In fact, it's one of the highest value activity things that I know of that you can do that pretty much anybody who's physically able can do. Excuse me. And that, for example, just doing some basic math on it, which you can read in Growing Free or at the blog, it tends to make about $50 to $100 an hour or more to have a family garden. It's a really high value thing once you get it all figured out and dialed in. But diminishing returns means that there's a really fast drop-off of the rate of return for the amount of hours and physical and labor and human hands involved and land area. The bigger the land area, the harder it is to manage. And so the profitability goes way down, which is why we can see, small operations on like less than an acre grossing reliably $40,000 a year or so. And you get up to like 10 acres and the number is down to like $100 per acre. So there's a rapid drop-off, and farming has always been used to demonstrate this concept of diminishing returns. So it's really, really difficult to make farming work, and that's just a fact of economics. Now, another issue that farming and vegetable farming in particular can demonstrate is called the opportunity cost, because farming businesses, you are tied up in them. You can't just take a weekend off or a week off to go and visit, to take out some other opportunity that arises that may make you a lot of money. Because if somebody isn't there to harvest the vegetables at the right time, they'll bolt, or water them during a drought, they'll die, or plant them at the right ideal time, you're going to have a crop loss for the whole season. So farming also comes with a big opportunity cost. Usually, things that have a high opportunity cost have to have a really high reward rate to make up for that. Again, farming does not. So it's just a really terrible business decision overall, which again is shocking because having a vegetable garden can be extremely high value. Now, does that mean we should give up altogether on creating a regenerative agriculture? Of course not. It's a really important work to do. And we say in permaculture, the problem is the solution. The fact that it's so difficult means that if you really do figure it out, and it's just not a get-rich-quick scam, then there could be really great rewards figuring out how to do these things. And there are people out there who are making things like this a part of their holistic life design. But the point is, I would not try to make vegetable farming the key strategy for paying my bills. It's just simply not very likely to work, no matter what the guys who don't farm and who teach profitable farming workshops will tell you. So, I'm casting shade here, people. But it's important because if we want to really build a regenerative agriculture, then we have to be realistic about about what that entails and what the economics of it are and what the problems are so we can overcome them. So already I hope you're thinking, if you want to do this right, we have some patterns that we want to avoid. We want to avoid the problem associated with scale and diminishing returns. We want to avoid that high opportunity cost, and we want to avoid all of these forms of risks and make sure that we're doing work that gets us a lot of value for our hours that we're putting into it. Okay, so that's number 5 on the list, vegetable farming. Next, number 4 on the list is almost as equally shocking because it's almost one of the like ideas, the main ideas about what the homesteading and permaculture life entails. And yet it probably is even worse for the economics than vegetable farming. Click on over to find out what number 4 is. Follow this channel for tips on how to make it a real reality, and head over to growingfree.money where we lay out the key strategies for making it really work in the real world. All right, people, thank you so much. Bye.